they said, well, you got the gig. And by the way, are you interested in coming on tour with us for the rest of the tour? It was like over the span of 2 years, and it was life changing. Hey, I'm Marlon Saunders of the Jazzhole, and you were watching Musicians Reveal with Joe Kelley.
All right, we are here at Musicians The Reveal. I'm extremely excited this afternoon as we have musical heavyweights in the business.
Wow.
They have been together as a band, Jazzhole, since 1994, but they've also had individual projects, highly esteemed project as well. Their latest record, Moonlight Mile, was released recently, and they are here, New York City, Jazzhole. Marlon Saunders and Warren Rosenstein. How you doing, fellas?
We're good, man. It's good to see you, Joe.
Doing
Yeah,
great.
great to see you. And also, what's it like getting that record out? I mean, you've got some videos on YouTube, but after, what's the count now? It's 30 plus years, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
30 plus years. Is that about right, Warren, right?
Yeah, almost 32 now.
That's what I was going to say about 32 years. It's
Yeah.
really wonderful in many respects and hard to believe in other respects, but it's good.
So the Moonlight Mile, I was really curious off the bat that you have a few covers on the record. Whose taste was it to pick an Elvis Costello and then the title track, The Rolling Stones? How did you get into that and decide?
Those were mine. So Joe,
Okay.
you know what was really interesting? We hadn't done a record in a long time, and not that we're big or important enough to have like a greatest hits record because we haven't had any hits, but I was thinking about, releasing just some of our all-time favorite cuts. And growing up, I always loved the Rolling Stones.
Right.
And I always thought Moonlight Mile was like a song that wasn't a hit, but was just a wonderful, sort of underappreciated song. So I started thinking, okay, well, we'll take some of our favorite old songs and maybe we'll just do a remake of this one tune. And we worked on it and it was kind of feeling good. And then it was like, well, maybe we'll just do two new songs. And then, one thing led to another and we had like 13 or 14 songs and
Wow.
just kind of went ahead and did it.
Marlon, did you pitch any of your favorite covers for the record?
No, I kind of just fell into where Warren was on it because in my mind, he's right. In the beginning, when we were talking, I was like, hey, let's just look over, you know, the recordings we have
Mhm.
and let's just reach out to some people we know who are big fans of the music and ask them their opinion. Pick 10, we pick, we'll narrow it down. And so, Warren started thinking more about let's go in and do one song, let's go in and do two songs. And that's Warren, before you know it, he'll have a small idea and then he gets
Right.
to thinking about it. And if I kind of affirm that idea or give him the opportunity to kind of just go and let that brain move,
Hmm.
then here we are. We ended up with the Moonlight Mile recording, which was actually a lot of fun to do.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
encourage our viewers and listeners, jazzhole.com, jazzhole.net. You can pick up their whole catalog, I believe, throughout there. They've been together 1994 and
yeah.
1994. Take us back. We'll talk about your individual musical background, but 1994 meeting and putting this concept together, Jazz Hole.
At the time, Joe, we were all kind of session people working on different people's projects, and a couple of the members of our like group of friends were more of a jazz background. Marlon probably has the broadest background, where grew up with gospel and jazz and R&B. I was more doing house records and hip hop records at the time. Um, but we were playing on everyone else's records, and then we thought, well, why don't we do an acid jazz record ourselves? So we got together and worked on a few tracks, and we chose the unfortunate name Jazzhole. There was a Simpsons episode that had a jazz club in it, and it was called the Jazzhole. And
Oh, okay.
we never thought this was going to be more than like one record and we'd be done. So we thought it was a silly, funny name, and we picked it. And 32 years later, still like spending 10 minutes each day explaining to someone why it's Jazzhole. And but anyway, that's how we got started. We put together a few tracks, and someone played it for Blue Moon Atlantic Records, and they wanted to be in on the sort of acid jazz thing that was going on. So they signed us, and that was kind of the start of it.
And you guys played on sessions together, Marlon?
Yeah, I met Warren. Someone had called me in to sing backgrounds a session, and Warren was engineering. And then, I got called back to do another session, and then I think Warren called or referred me to a session. And by the time we got to about the third or fourth, sessions, we started talking about 70s music, 70s soul music, and our love for that music. And then he said, "Oh, we should try to write something." And we did. We had this dance hit, or dance single, I should say, that turned into a nice little underground club hit called "It's You."
Mm-hmm.
And Warren and I just kind of started writing and figuring out things from there, really.
I wanted to ask about an appearance you did way back in the beginning of your career, because my wife's from Montreal. You played Music Plus, right?
Music
sure
Plus,
did.
yeah.
Music
There
Plus
you go. How
did.
did that happen? And my wife wanted to know, have you ever played the Montreal Jazz Festival?
Yes, yes.
As Jazzhole?
As Jazzhole.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah, we you know what was really interesting, Joe? We had tremendously good reception in Canada. And while we were popular in New York, Canada was really the place for us. And
Yeah.
the thing that used to always happen, hopefully you'll get a chuckle out of this, but we'd have a gig booked in New York, and we'd be hyping it, and then like 2 days before the show, there'd be like, oh, there's a surprise, like Aretha Franklin show at the Beacon Theater, and this person's playing here, and that person's playing there. And like every time we were playing, there was just someone, more famous than us playing in New York that was like pulling in all the fans. But like we played a lot in Toronto at the Bamboo Club. I don't know if you've been there.
No.
And we played in Montreal a bunch of times. And, like when we played in Canada, we could be on national TV. Like when we played in New York, there was just a lot of competition for people's attention.
Right. Yeah, I've been in Montreal, Club Soda, Metropolis.
Oh, yeah. Metropolis.
We played
Yeah.
Metropolis.
Yeah. Saw Maceo Parker there. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
What year
yeah.
was that, Joe?
I used to go every year. I'd get press pass and work for WVOF and
yes.
early 2000s, I think. Man, I saw some great shows. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was actually a kind of a cool little music scene going on in Burlington, Vermont as well. And that like Boston, Burlington, Montreal, Toronto,
That's right.
Right.
was something where you could like string 4 dates together and kind of play for a good audience.
Yeah, I was going to tell you quickly, because you mentioned Vermont, the connection. Belize Baha'i, your drummer, a member of the band as well, Tom. I saw them open up for Morris Day at the time at Tramps in New York City years ago.
Oh, yeah. Tramps.
Yeah, that was so. I didn't even know that. I did a search on Belize Baha'i, and it said they performed on my show in the studio. Like online, it says that. Either my memory shot or that didn't happen, because I would have remembered if they had played. But we played their music on the show.
Yeah, so that's how we met Mark, our drummer. We were booked on the same show in Burlington, Vermont, and we immediately became friends with Mark and wound up playing on a number of shows with them, and then we kind of recruited Mark over. And you know what's funny, Joe and Marlon, maybe you could share because you remember it better than me. But in those early '90s in New York City, and there were so many clubs that we were playing, Tramps, Knitting Factory, The Cooler, Under Acme, Fez. I don't know how many of those ring a bell for you,
so
Joe.
Knitting Factory and Fez, yeah.
Yeah. But Marlon, who were some of the people we played with? Because we played with a lot of people who at
On
the
their way up.
time hadn't really happened yet, and like a year later.
Very much. On the way up. Definitely Erica Badu. Like, she opened for us.
Never heard of her.
Irving
No, I'm
Plaza.
kidding. Irving Plaza.
D'Angelo
Okay.
opened for us at Tramps. Oh, what was that place, Warren, that was, it was like on Houston, just, Joe, you may know, just off of Broadway. Oh, AKA it was called. It was like
Yeah.
very long,
Okay.
but we played with everybody there. like a lot of the hip hop artists we played with there.
I got a good question. You're talking about clubs. The name escapes me. I've been trying for the years to figure out the name of the place. Marlon, you had a show in Brooklyn. It was a Five Spot or something? No,
There was a club in Brooklyn. Was it Frank's Lounge?
it could have been. There's a late. It was like 2004. A lady opened up for you.
April Hill, maybe.
Yeah, it could have been. And I
I bet
saw
it was.
her. I saw her a few weeks later in New Jersey going to see Prince. We were going to the musicology show, and I ran into her in line. And said, "Oh, I saw you open up for Marlon," and I don't know. She wasn't impressed about me asking her, not about you, but me coming up to her saying it. I don't know. Maybe she wanted to get in to see Prince.
It probably was April Hill, and it probably was Frank's Lounge because that was like the spot in like the early 2000s, and around that time, everybody was playing Frank's Lounge. There was another place that was further into Brooklyn, but Frank's Lounge was the spot.
And I remember I ordered coffee and I said a couple creams and sugar, and I started drinking it. They had poured salt in my coffee,
Ooh,
so I remember that place as well as your performance. Yeah. So let's
salted coffee, man.
Yeah, salted coffee. Let's talk about the new record, of course, Moonlit Mile. And there's a song in there that really started to make me feel old. Damn, I
Mm.
Miss New York. Was referencing 94 when you started, but I think back to like the early to mid 80s as being old times. So I'm like, man, I'm really getting old. Tell us about working on that track and the lady who's singing as well as Marlon on there.
So our bass player David Innes kind of came up with the chords and stuff, and then I kind of put a beat to it, and then one of our vocalists, Michelle Lewis, who's like been with us since the beginning and has gone on to become a really successful songwriter, and has also helped create some TV shows. So she's out in LA and doing all that kind of stuff, but she's a really great lyricist, and I think she wrote the lyrics, and Marlon, you worked on the melody with her, maybe, or
Yeah.
and so that song features Marlon, Michelle, and Rosa, all original 1994 band members. And then Joe, I don't know, have you gotten a chance? Have you seen the video from that, or?
Yeah, with the black and white pictures. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
So what's really interesting is back in the day, I was friends with this woman named Amy Arbus, who's a very well-known photographer, and she was a photographer for a local newspaper called The Village Voice, and she had a weekly full page of her, quote, street fashion photography. So there's just all this incredible archive of really cool, quirky pictures she took of people on the street. Some of it is before 94, to your point, Joe. Some of it is even mid-'80s. So she let me use all her photos, and it felt like just such a nice organic match to the tune,
Yeah, your band is stylish as well as sounding good. So kudos. Great choice of a video.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's such a good, I mean, I think what really, really gets people so excited about the tune is, you get to see the video, and Warren is right. Michelle is a great lyricist, a great songwriter. And the imagery that she, from the very first line that you get from the song, and it
Yeah.
stays with you through the whole thing. And I mean, I think one of the things that's great too is that Warren thought about it, and both Michelle and I thought too, but Warren said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, was that the three of us sing on it together the way that we used to sing on stuff in the very beginning of Jazzhole,
Okay.
connecting and singing. And Michelle and I used to do a lot of session work together when she was in New York in the 90s anyway, singing together. So that was great, as well as Rosa. But Michelle and I sang together a lot.
You recorded this record in a bunch of different places. I think Woodstock, but the key one, you traveled all the way down south to Alabama, Muscle Shoals.
Oh, yeah.
How did that come about? That's fantastic.
That was a
So,
connection Warren has.
so my big brother is he's the successful brother. He is a very successful record producer. He's won lots of Grammys, and he's worked with Ziggy Marley and Madonna and Talking Heads and you name it. So he had a real love for music of the 60s, and besides being a record producer, is also a really skillful engineer. So he's got a lot of like studio love, which is a very geeky, obscure thing. So the studio down in Muscle Shoals, Fame Recording, so many of the legendary records have been recorded there, like Aretha Franklin, Wilson Pickett, Otis Redding, people like that, all recorded in this place down there. So my brother came down there and kind of helped re-energize the business, and he's a partner in the Muscle Shoals studio. So he said to us, "You've got to come down here and like do some recordings." So we all flew down. I mean, we flew to Nashville and then rented a car. There isn't like a big airport near the studio. So we flew to Nashville, rented a car, and drove down there, and we cut tracks. And it was a real thrill. Like I don't know if you've ever seen there's footage of like Aretha doing those early songs, and you see like a Wurlitzer electric piano, and it's like it's still there. It's like right there in the room.
Can you use it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh, you can.
as
Okay.
well as the acoustic piano was still there. The acoustic
Oh,
piano was still. I played on that, and that was to me that was everything because Little Richard's been on that piano. I mean, everybody has been. Ray Charles has been on that piano. So Aretha, of course, so to
yeah.
touch that piano for me was
And
just
now Marlon and Warren have touched that piano.
that was the thing.
Yeah. There's so many I saw some clips you guys did an interview while you were at the studios. All those pictures on the wall.
I know
That's wow. That's like
It's
walking
it,
in the bitter end with the pictures.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe, it's like a living museum, honestly. And one of the things that's really strange there that I've never run into before is when you book the session, they let we have a tour every day. I forget what time it is. Maybe it's like 11 a.m. Like, and your session's going to stop for 15 minutes, and people are going to get off a bus. They're getting a tour of the whole building, but they're going to go through the room that you're recording in, and you just have to accept that if you book a session there. But it's pretty amazing. There's people coming there almost every day, and people in some cases even coming from other countries, who love the soul music of the 60s and want to like kind of see what's going on.
That's pretty powerful in that way when you think about it.
I didn't catch it, Marlon. What did you say?
I said it's pretty powerful when you think about, you know, it's coming out of Muscle Shoals, Alabama. This
Right.
music was recorded, in the 60s, as Warren said, and it's been able to touch and reach everyone throughout the world. And that so much so that when people come to the States, that's one of the places, if they're coming from a different country, they're thinking about going to. How much the music has touched them. That's
Yeah.
pretty powerful.
I mentioned before, besides Jazzhole, you both have accolades on your different solo projects. Right in the background, your house kind of looks like I used to live in a converted factory. It looked just like that, kind of the wall like that. But I see Songs in the Key of Life, which you were
Oh,
right
yes.
there, tied up with Stevie Wonder, leading the choir. How did that come about, and what was it like going on tour with Stevie?
I got that gig because my name came up when they were looking for someone to when they first started the tour. Their first stop was Madison Square Garden, and so they were looking for someone who could put a choir together very quickly and just do, what he needed to do like in a day. And I've kind of known, one of the things that I'm known for in New York is being able to gather a choir very quickly. I know a lot of singers. I have access to it. And so I got that, my job was just to be that one thing, but I was so strategic in how I put the choir together. You know, I had Tawafa Aji and
Wow.
Arif St. Michael was in there, and then I also got Cindy Mizell. I wanted people that could really, really give the authentic sound, but yet at the same time, I also had some young singers who had just finished. We had just finished working with Sam Smith, so it was a
Oh, okay.
combination of both of those things. And we went into the sound check, and the funny thing is, Greg Gaines was the musical director, and we did "Pastime Paradise" was one of the songs. And when that choir comes in, it's such a wonderful mixture of gospel choir. You all know there's gospel choir, there's the meditation. Is like all these things just plopped onto one. So it's very hard to hear what the gospel choir is saying.
Okay.
And the fact that I went researching it, and part of the gig was like, Greg said, "Do you need us to tell you what it's saying?" And I was like, "Nah, we got it." And he's like, "Do you need us to teach you the parts?" I was like, "Nah, we're good." And so Stevie was sitting there, so we just went down, and when it went down, we could sing it and knew the parts. And they said, "Well, you got the gig, and by the way, are you interested in coming on tour with us for the rest of the tour?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I'll do this."
And it was a
That was a
2-year
tough
tour, right?
decision,
And
right?
it was
Yeah,
it
it
was a
really
very
had
hard
to.
decision to make.
I'll
It
talk
was
to my agent.
very difficult decision. But
Yeah,
no, it was like over the span of 2 years, and it was life changing, and learned a lot, and wow, just it was a dream come true almost. You know what I mean? In the
yeah,
sense of like Songs in the Key of Life. Who doesn't know that record? How many times have we not sat with that record?
yeah.
Um, and how many times have Warren and I sat and talked about the record? Right, Warren?
Yeah, very much
Years and
so.
years and years. I mean, I think one of the things that's been a good thing for me, knowing my brother here for over 32 years, is we were fortunate enough in the sense that how our deal came about, we could spend a lot of time together.
Hmm.
We were one of those bands that we would just spend like pretty much we would get up and go to work, and it would be going to the studio, and some of that time would be writing, and some of it would just be listening, and some of it would be hanging out. And I think through that, and then being on the road and the ups and downs, the in-betweens, I think that's what really, really makes you realize who are true family members in that sense. And Warren is indeed, a true brother to me in that sense that you know, he puts up with me, I put up with him, I love him, he loves me. We know each other's ins and outs, and I mean, I couldn't ask for a better brother, like, in that sense, a musical brother. I couldn't ask for anyone better.
Oh, thank you for that.
You,
You're
you,
welcome.
yeah.
You
There you
tell me,
go.
tell me
Mutual.
my,
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
tell me.
Well, you know what? You know what is interesting, Joe. As I'm listening to what Marlon is saying, I don't know if this is too much of a tangent, but
No, don't
I
go ahead.
think about life today, right? And when I was a kid, like adults belonged to lodges, like
Mm,
Rotary Club or Elks or whatever, and people belonged to alumni associations and they belonged to churches, and they had all these constructs in addition to their family that were like social constructs. And now it feels like everyone has sort of migrated to social media. But the connection, I think, there is a little bit flimsy,
mhm.
and it isn't the same. And I think one of the things that's really been a blessing, like thinking about Mark, the drummer from Belize Bahar, like we've always, it's always been the person's character first and their musicianship second.
Hmm.
So this really has become, and as you get older, things change, you lose some people, etc. But the core of our group, which is Marlon and myself, John Pondell, the guitarist, Mark Robham, the drummer, David Innes, the bass player,
Yeah.
Michelle Lewis and Rosa Russ, vocalists, and then Danny Sadownik, who's just a blinding percussionist, and Mark Gross, saxophonist. Every single one of those people is really like a family member. So it's kind of been nice getting reconnected to that. There's something satisfying about spending a couple hours talking with them that, trumps posting a picture of what I did today and getting 30 likes on it or something.
Yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah. And Randy Brecker is an honorary member of Jazzhole now, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And Joe, it's so great that you picked it out. I have to say that I think that if there are a set of people that we've worked with that could very easily have a diva attitude, I think it's absolutely been the reverse. Like Randy was the most accommodating,
Oh yeah.
kind, like easy guy to work with, and you know, played stuff, and then was like it okay. And I, I thought this was funny. I just spontaneously said it, but I said like Randy, you asking me if that solo's okay is like sort of God saying like, here's the Grand Canyon. What do you think? Does it look okay? Like it's like like you're Randy Brecker. Like I'm honored that that you'd even consider working with us, you know?
How in the studio when you have them? Were you all both at the whole session for all the
No,
songs? No.
no.
How did he record with you?
I think Warren, you were with
Yeah.
Randy.
Okay. Easy to make songs with, so that's great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I think he may be the most recorded trumpet player in history,
I think he is.
interestingly. And you know, you can see why there's not much that he plays that isn't wonderful, you know what I
Exactly.
mean? You're just
Yeah, you
I mean,
play.
I just love what he does on Father's Child. Like
yeah.
just just the way that the attention that he plays to the line. You can tell like the thing that I love about it, you can tell that he thought about what Kay was saying in the lyric, and he thought about what the chorus is saying, what I was writing there, because you can just tell by the way he phrases. So when he's going up against like what I'm doing, it's just beautiful in how we put that together, and the track that Warren created underneath that, you know, it all works together well.
Jazzhole.com. Go there now. You can order all their music. Support independent still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Quickly, acid jazz. How would you define acid and jazz? Literally, people dropping acid and listen to jazz, or I don't know.
That's essentially, because kind of like acid jazz and acid house when they all came about, that's really what it was. It was people getting high and they were just what was happening was they were putting tracks. I mean, they were putting jazz over the tracks that were happening on the dance floor.
Okay.
They were putting jazz, mixing it in. So they just kind of developed this whole vibe of people, how like when you're looking into house music or you're listening to hip hop music, and then all of a sudden a subculture comes out of that.
Right.
And that's what happened. DJ was like, "Yeah, what would happen if look at these folks on the club on the dance floor?
Yeah.
What would happen if I put a little Miles up in this on this house groove right now?"
Jazzhole. I mean, you can't just say acid jazz. You got funk, you've got
Yeah.
Latin, you got soul. It's just great music. Period. How receptive to, for instance, radio? Is it difficult to sell your music to radio, or
It
everybody's
is.
Sells the literal word
Okay.
there.
Right.
yeah, right.
I mean,
Um,
first, Warren's right in the sense, like, I mean, basically, we in this world we live in today, you're giving music away,
Right, just
Yeah.
to get heard. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
But I think our journey along the way has always been because we had so many different type of genres coming together. People didn't, it was found a very hard time to where to categorize it,
Right.
how to categorize it. But I, love that fact that that we did what we did because we just honestly, Warren and I would just be like, what would happen if we did this? Or I'd come in and sit down and have a groove, and then Warren would add to that groove. Because I find that in the midst of us being able to do that, while that journey has been a journey of its own, it's unique in the sense that no matter what we're going to put together, because we're coming with so many different genres and so many different influences, it allows us to create something that is completely our own. And so there's something for me that I kind of like in the fact that listening back to our music and listening to our catalog, it indeed crosses a lot of things. Like you can hear hip hop in it, you can hear influences of soul and R&B, and there's some influences of John. John is magical on that guitar. Like he can just play. I'm going to be honest, John, to me, in terms of modern guitar players,
Right.
in terms of what he brings to Jazzhole, is probably one of the most beautiful, incredible players that I've heard in a long time in terms of what he can play and how he can make it make sense with what's happening with what Warren and I are doing. So for me, I like that it kind of sits in a lot of places.
yeah.
And plus, real musicians, you guys play live, so that's the key. You still can
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
out there. You played SOBs, right?
Yeah, we did SOBs from the last record.
Okay.
And
We
Joe, one other thing that your question brought up for me, which is since we're not trying to fit a radio format, it's really, there aren't a lot of the constraints. Like, one of the things that I think's happened on the jazz side is that the formats have become narrower and narrower and narrower. And now, we have a number of friends who are doing, like, quote, smooth jazz records. And, what is playable in that format has gotten so incredibly narrow. And people are very much, in the studio writing for that radio format.
Hmm.
And like if someone is soloing and that solo has some momentum, but it's going past 16 bars because, the song needs to have, the solo needs to end here to fit the format. Or if someone's playing with a little bit of grit and the grit doesn't quite fit the format, there's just, it gets boxed into something so small. The fact, we're not trying to make money at this. We're doing it for love. And the fact that there is no format to please, like one of the things that was really enjoyable on our last record, this guy named Prabhu Edward, who's a tabla player from France, is just a magical musician. And, one of the songs that's been a really successful single from that record was Love Life. And it's, kind of hip hop mixed with an Indian tabla player. And it's so, it's so fun just to have the freedom to be like, well, we want our hip hop to have like tabla on it, like,
Right.
Exactly.
and not have someone come back and say, well, they're never going to play it if you have,
Right.
it's very freeing.
So if he's not in town, who's got to pick up the tabla?
Warren will just have to play.
Oh, Warren, I just have to play, right?
We
He'll just have to-
we can't replace him. And that, I was
But that's a
complaining
great
little.
song, yeah.
Oh, thank you. I was
Yeah.
complaining a little bit about some of the, internet technology and what it's done to friendships and relationships. But on the plus side, there are people we could access to play on stuff who, like, we've never met Prabhu in person. My wife saw an ad that this guy was doing a master class online in tabla, and I checked out the ad and heard him play, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. And I just sent him an email and said, you sound amazing, would you play on our record? And so the ability to touch people like that in different parts of the world and have them play, the technology is wonderful in that regard.
And
So,
just to tag on to that, the freedom, which goes back to your question, Joe, the freedom to be able to be as creative as Warren was in that moment. You
right.
know, if you're dealing with the constraints of you have to make a record that can only be played on this, it wouldn't allow his mind to just take that moment and be like, you know what, let me check out what this dude is doing. Because he wouldn't be thinking that way.
Yeah.
And I think also a lot of that has to do with the fact in terms of how we began our careers and what we were doing in our careers. We didn't come, I think if you're coming at it and you're very clear about, I want to be an artist, I want to be a singer that's going to be an R&B singer, that you have to follow those constraints. You have to be willing to do those things. Otherwise, you won't get any play.
Yeah.
And I think, we, in the midst of us, sure, it's a harder, road to travel in terms of being able to have that freedom. But my goodness, when I go back and listen, to Blackburst, which is, one of my all-time favorite Jazzhole records that I'm most proud of, I'm so happy we made the choices that we made. Had we not made those choices, ironically, at that time in our lives, Warren, right? Blackburst wouldn't have been, if we had gone with what the label wanted us to
Right.
do, Blackburst would never have been created in the way that it's created, which has been, it's funny, the electronic music and all of that, which is hysterical to me, but it's true.
And I love how your album covers have always been really innovative. And one of my favorite ones is with the fire hydrant with the kids and the New York Post truck right in the back. That was I forgot the title of that one. That was way
Circle
back?
of the Sun.
Oh,
Circle
okay,
of the
yeah,
Sun.
that was a great shot.
Oh,
That is-
so thanks for that. Those covers, there was a whole set of them that were designed by a woman named Laura Ford, who, has been a design professor at RISD and Cooper Union and is now the head of digital and brand for the New York Times. So she's like a very, very special, gifted designer. But Joe, I think what you might be relating to on that, and I know I did as well, is it's not just like a gorgeous design, but like, there's something about the kids and the fire hydrant. And
Right.
did you grow up in New York, Joe, or no?
No, no. I was born in Orange, New Jersey, but I was only there, and we lived in Newark for 2 years, and then Connecticut was primarily
Got
where
it.
I lived. Yeah, but
Yeah. The even the photos she's selected, there's something really to me evocative of them that just feels like, this is what it felt like to be in New York City in those days.
right.
Mm-hmm.
We played hardball. We didn't play stickball.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, stickball was famous back probably when our parents were growing up, right?
No, I played stickball in the
Oh,
streets
okay.
too, and
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
but
So
it was just fading out. But a New York sports legend, Willie Mays,
yeah.
was famous for, like, Willie Mays lived in New York City, and Willie Mays could, he played for the Giants, and he could be playing a game that night, and the next afternoon, he'd be out in the street playing stickball with kids, like, routinely. He was
I went
just,
to his I went to the first game he played when he got traded to the Mets at Shea Stadium. He hit a home run that game.
oh
So
wow.
yeah, yeah. My dad took us. Yeah. So I'm a Mets
Wow.
fan. So yeah. Before I forget, connection with Dave Innes, your bassist. When I'm buddies with Kurt Jones from Aura. When he comes to Jersey, I've seen Dave playing bass in the band. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So he
Yeah,
brings
Dave,
go ahead,
amazing,
bringing the
amazing
funk to Jazz
sound
Hall. Yeah.
of his bass.
Right. All right, we're going to wrap it up. I'm always interested with musicians who come on the show, their first concert they ever went to
Mm.
see the experience. And let's see, we'll go, Warren. How about yours?
Boy, I was really, really lucky. The first concert I ever saw, I think I was 11 or 12, and I saw Eric Clapton and Carlos Santana were playing at the Nassau County Coliseum in
Wow.
Long Island. It was Clapton's first tour after he cleaned up after a heroin addiction, where he hadn't played live for some number of years. And my parents drove me and waited outside in the parking lot. And and like Clapton played for like an hour and Santana played for like an hour, and then they both came out and just jammed together for like an hour, and it was completely memorable and set a very high bar for future concerts.
Yeah, yeah. It takes a while to match that one when you're growing up, 11 years old.
That's
How
true.
about you, Marlon?
9 years old,
Uh-huh.
Howard Theater, Washington D.C., Manhattan's main
Oh,
ingredients, the Dells, the whatnot,
no wonder why you're a singer.
and I was just and Blue Magic. I think that was like the first thing I saw, but it was the OJ's that did it to me. My father tells that story of, like, he said, out of nowhere, I just kind of stood up and I was just looking when he was singing, like I couldn't believe it. But
Yeah.
and it was all the things that I love: great singing,
Hmm.
uh, and great harmony. There were groups where there was harmony, so it hit everything.
Almost
My
all Philly soul acts, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And he's a
it was
card carrying member of the DMV.
yeah,
Yeah. All
yeah.
right. My first is not the Songs on the Key of Life tour. Stevie Wonder, Hotter Than July tour. Gil Scott Heron open up. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
that was a long, long show. Stevie played, and he asked the crowd, "Do you want this set or this set?" Well, he played the "We Can't Get the Train Out of New Haven Back to Fairfield" set. Yeah,
Wow.
that was great seeing him. Yeah, and you work with
That's
him, so yeah,
that's
great
good.
experiences. We should all be proud of what we experienced
Absolutely.
and still doing. So I'm honored to have both of you on. Marlon's
Thanks.
been on at least a couple times. Came to the studio from New York,
Yeah.
and Warren Rosenstein as well. Great to meet you. And I forgot to touch on Fonda Ray. You work with her.
Wow.
Yeah,
You do your research. Yeah, one of the
yeah. I got some
real
of her records. Yeah.
one of the real thrills of my in some ways unremarkable career was getting to write a song for Fonda, which became like a pretty big New York City club hit. Do You Want My Love? And I remember that at one point Frankie Crocker started playing it on WBLS,
Yeah.
and Frankie Crocker and WBLS was very much like, the sort of, I know it's a cliche, but like the kind of musical wallpaper of our childhoods growing up in New York
Right.
City. I was talking to Marlon about it and just saying, I was a basketball player, and like when you were playing basketball in New York City, someone had a boombox tuned to BLS on the side of the court, and that was just always going on. So, of all the different successes or approval, like having Frankie Crocker like a song I did was just,
Yeah, he was my
really.
radio idol. Yeah, he was
Oh,
great.
really?
Yeah, I love BLS. I mean, you could get like the SOS band, and the next song would be on Frankie's show, The Who, Eminence Front. It was like kind of like what you guys do.
Yeah,
Right.
and Joe, I know we got to wrap, but just to quickly piggyback on that, BLS, particularly the Hal Jackson show, but Frankie Crocker as well, it was an education as much as it was entertainment. You listened to that 4 or 5 hours a day for a year, and you knew a lot about music that you didn't know before.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You did
great.
share it with me before, Warren.
Yeah, great experiences. Ricky Ricardo, he was another staple
Oh,
on there. Yeah. So I got to thank Marlon Saunders, Warren Rosenstein of Jazzhole. Looking forward to you guys hopefully set up some more dates, right?
We're probably going to be playing in the fall, and we are also have another new album that's we're going to be dropping the first single
Yep.
in about another month. So more new stuff coming out. And Joe, we'd love to get it over to you before it's released if you
Yeah,
want.
we'll put it
Get
on
an early
Musicians Reveal Radio and put
Oh,
it in heavy
perfect.
rotation. Get the balls rolling on
We
that. So
appreciate it.
yeah, yeah. Always, I got you. You help me do my job easier when you're creating music like Jazzhole. So
Oh, that's nice.
thanks to the
Thanks
whole
so much,
band.
Joe.
Yeah,
Thank you, Joe.
thank you guys.